You heard it.
Good afternoon. I want to welcome you to this version of Transformation Ministries LeaderConnect. I'm Doug Mai, and I'll be hosting the conversation that we're going to be having this afternoon. This is something that we do every Tuesday afternoon. And most recently, we've had a series of webinars that have focused on the theme of renewal. And there were some great conversations, helpful conversations about the importance of prayer and personal renewal and church renewal and what it means when a church is renewed in terms of its commitment to multiplication and church planting. If you missed those, I would really encourage you to go on the website for Transformation Ministries, tmchurches.org. You can go in the search bar, and all you need to do is just type in videos. And you'll see the library of videos that we have there, and you can listen to any of them that you want to. Today, we're going to pivot a little bit from the topic of renewal. And probably the most significant event in the Christian calendar is Resurrection Sunday, Easter Sunday, where we celebrate the triumph of Jesus over sin and death and evil in the world. That has typically been a day to which churches point, around which they wrap a lot of activities, a lot of thinking. It's an important part of their strategy. But obviously, this is a year where we're still suffering the effects of the pandemic. And so the topic that we're going to be looking at today is Easter 2021. What are your plans? Because I think we can learn from each other in terms of what churches are thinking and planning and how it is that they're going to be approaching this very important Sunday. I'm really excited to introduce to you the pastors who are going to be sharing. We have Bill Staffieri, who is the pastor at Beach Point Church in Fountain Valley. David Ordaz, who is the pastor at One Church, a relatively new church plant in San Diego, California. Eric van Schoonhoven, who is at the Bridge, which is located, I think, in Glendale, but somewhere, okay, the greater Phoenix area, it is Glendale. And then Ivan Pitts, who is at Second Baptist Santa Ana. And what you're going to see is that all of them are in slightly different stages, but probably sharing more and more in common right now. Let me just encourage you, who are viewing this, to join in the conversation. And you can enter your thoughts in the chat section. You can write questions. We'll try to get to all of those questions as much as we can. But let me begin by inviting each of our panelists to introduce the setting that your church is currently experiencing, and just talk to us a little bit about how you've been doing services most recently. So I think we're going to start with David and then go to Eric, Ivan, Bill. So.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. Again, my name is David. We opened a church. We started a church about a year and a half ago in San Diego, in the area of La Mesa. We started in a movie theater in a plaza. And then after that, we moved into like a commercial spot. And then because of the pandemic and all this, a lot of businesses, it was kind of bittersweet, but some restaurants went under. And so we were able to move into what used to be a hamburger place called Fuddruckers. And we took over that building in October. And we've been remodeling and just updating everything. And we've been having in-person services now since the beginning of the year, just kind of, opening our doors to people to start coming back. And it's been, a trickle of people just adding every Sunday to each of the services. This past Sunday, I think, again, with everything going on, just the updates on the pandemic and everything we've been through for the past year, I think people are now not only kind of ready, but almost needing to get out, needing to go back to church and have that community. So that's where we're at. And Fairly young church, as I mentioned. We are running about, I would say, well, this Sunday we had attendance of about 120 people in 2 services. And so that's where we're at right now.
Real quick, before we go on to Eric, David, how many did you have online this past Sunday?
Our online attendance, so we don't have very stable internet access where we're at. And so what we do is we pre-record and then upload on Mondays. And so, but we're averaging, I would say we're averaging probably like 20 people that are actually viewing it and following it.
So you got a much bigger physical gathering than you do
100%.
online gathering.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, we're a little bit over 2 years. We're right outside of Phoenix in Glendale, and so we actually came back in to live in-person gatherings in July, and we've been meeting since. So we were at 2 services before we started. We're really close to a 3rd service right now. It's been really cool. Our church has actually grown through this last 8 months. I want to encourage everyone, if for any reason you missed Easter this year, we actually did Easter in July when we came back. That was our first service back because we missed Easter while everyone was online. And we're like, dude, we're not missing the best day of the year. So we did Easter in July. We made a huge thing of it. It was a really cool way to come back to church. So I mean, honestly, we're kind of going like we did before. It feels like 2019 as far as like what we're doing as a church. We're active, we're in the community, we got people all over the place doing all kinds of stuff. And I kind of told our elders in the beginning, I'm like, I did the online thing for a couple months and I was like, you got to find someone else. If I got to be the online pastor, I'm just not going to work well for it because I'm just not geared that way. So it's been really good. This is the most normal part of my week is Sunday morning with people at church. Everywhere else feels weird except for church. So it's been good.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah. Love the idea of Easter in July. That's awesome. Yeah, Ivan.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Eric, you inspired me. So I want to hire your elder board for about 2 weeks, if you don't mind, and get some things happening. So we're in Santa Ana. We plan to come back full time on Easter. We'll have 3 services, one in our Lake Forest location at 5:30 in the morning, sunrise service, and then we'll have 2 in Santa Ana on our main campus. And so what we've been doing has really been online since March. We've had 2 indoor services in the fall. They went well. We had pre-registration. We probably had about 65, 70% attendance based upon who registered. And so when we come back, we're going to come back at about 25% of our occupancy. And so that's where we are at this point.
Bill?
Okay, I'm Bill Staffieri at Beach Point Church. We're in Fountain Valley, right on the border of Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley. So 115-year-old church. We are meeting live. We have a unique property. We actually did a building campaign that finished about 6 months before COVID, where we built a outdoor patio and an indoor-outdoor kind of multi-purpose room. And it basically, if you would have said, build the ultimate COVID space, we built it. So in our weather, so we have been, we've been meeting since summer. We had outdoor, kind of outdoor meetings, indoor-outdoor meetings until Christmas Eve. Then after Christmas, we did a online only for that next week. And then what happened was we had about 70 to 100 people in our church get COVID, not at church, but just in Fountain Valley. It just surged in January. So we went all online again in January, all month long. And we opened back up in February. So we do 2 services that you can sit in the pavilion with all doors open or on the patio. And we have people pre-register. We have about 200 that will come, 100 in each service. We only do kids ministry at the 11 o'clock. We do it all outdoors. And we have about 650 online that will watch through Facebook, YouTube, and Church Online. So that's what we've been doing. And we're prepping to go back into the sanctuary. If everything continues to move as positively as it can, our plan is by Easter, we will actually have our sanctuary, our pavilion, and our patio as our locations.
Great. Good. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
All three, huh? So great. Thank you, Bill. So let me ask you this. What is the goal that you have for your Easter services? Okay, what are you trying to do? And what are you going to be doing on Easter to try to accomplish that goal? So Eric, let's begin with you, and then we'll just kind of go right around. You have to unmute.
So we're definitely going after those that are far from God, people that are lost. We actually are making a whole weekend out of it. So actually a whole week. So starting on Palm Sunday, every day, Monday through Friday, each day, we'll go live and we'll do a teaching on that specific day of Holy Week. Last year we had, 50, 60 people watch it live every day. We were shocked. We didn't think anyone was going to watch it. And then we'll do a Good Friday service in person where we'll worship, we'll take communion, we'll do a service on Saturday. We're doing the only glow in the dark Easter egg hunt in the Valley. And so we'll have a huge event for people. It'll be outdoor, it'll be space, but 10,000 eggs, glow in the dark for kids, all leading up to Easter Sunday. We're moving our Easter service outside this year, just because we really don't think we can host the amount of people that will probably come. And so we're going to do it outside. We got a bunch of cool stuff set up for that. And so the whole week it's Easter week. It's not just Easter Sunday.
Yeah. So yeah, someone said, I want to go to that hunt. That sounds like an awful lot of fun. Is this the first year you've done that?
No, we did it our first year, and we actually got on the news because we had planned for a couple hundred people to show up, and we had over 2,000 people show up.
Yeah.
We had no idea. We didn't advertise it. People just showed up. It was crazy. So yeah, glow in the dark is it's a thing.
Yeah. And where will you be meeting? You mentioned you'll be meeting outside. Is that on your campus or someplace else?
Yeah, it's on property. We got a big grass field. Actually, in December, January, February, and we have a women's conference next Friday we're hosting. They're all outside. So we're trying to do both and do inside and outside, and they both have their advantages.
Yeah. So you're together physically and going full bore right after it.
Foot in the ground, we're running.
That's cool. Yeah. Ivan, how about you guys? What are you able to do? You're just coming back. So tell us a little bit about, what you're going to try to do on your Easter service and your plans for that.
So what we're doing as of 3 seconds ago, we're doing a glow in the dark Easter egg hunt for. That's what we're doing. We'll be the only church in Santa Ana, I guess, that would do that. I've already sent the text to my youth person. I'm like, hey, we got to check this glow in the dark thing out. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. I'll let you know how it turns out.
Let's talk after. I'll give you a bunch of stuff that we use for that.
Great. This has been a great webinar. Okay, good to talk with you all. See you next week. So our theme is pretty much like Eric. We're going after those who are lost. What has happened in the last year since we've been in COVID is that there have been 2 large high-end, high luxury apartment complexes that have been built 1 block away from us. And it's a 250 unit space, and another one is about half that size, about 2 blocks up. They were under construction when we went into COVID. They have finished and now they're occupied. And so we're hitting that place really hard. Our theme is SBC Church, closer than you think. And we're encouraging folks just to walk. It's only 1 block, cross 1 street, and you're here. The other one is 2 blocks away. You have to cross 2 streets, but we're encouraging folks, walk with your family to church for Easter. So that's one. The second is a regathering. I'm reminding people the importance of us being together, that the power of worship in the physical has the ability to encourage us in ways that we may have forgotten. And let me say this, and then I'll shut up. We did a memorial service a couple Saturdays ago honoring and remembering those who transitioned in 2020. And we had about 50 people in our space. And the overwhelming sentiment was, we forgot how good it feels to be in the space with people, hearing hand claps, and just hearing the voices of others. And so I think that this is a great opportunity for us to rediscover the power of the presence of God in the sanctuary, but the presence of God's people in God's sanctuary.
Mhm.
Great. Thanks, Ivan. Yeah.
Mhm.
Bill, how about at Beach Point? What do you think?
Yeah, we like to use Easter as kind of a launching point of try to determine some kind of series where we're going, where it begins in Easter and kind of heads out into the next weeks, trying to figure out a way to draw people back into some way of getting connected. So our theme this year is Reimagine. And we're going to be looking at the story starting on Good Friday, looking at the cross, and then going into on Sunday or the weekend, we'll look at the story of Thomas and his encounter and the way that Jesus was able to reimagine, how he was able to reimagine his life with Jesus, what he thought was reality and what actually turned out to be. And then from there, part of that is, I think for our folks, we have had kind of a slow, we're seeing people slowly come back. I received a number of texts this last week from older folks in our church. I haven't been to church in a year, and they're so excited because they're getting the vaccine. And they're like, hey, March 6th, I get my second vaccine. And so we will, as I was sharing, we're trying to go back into we're anticipating the ability that we think in California, at least in our area in Orange County, we will be at the red tier, which allows us to, it gives us the confidence that if we move indoors and things like that, that the numbers support that we're not putting our people into something that we think is hazardous. We do things, currently we have masks and distancing and registering, and it has worked really well for us, but we want to be able to, so we'll do 4 services. We'll do 2 on Saturday. We'll do 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock. And then we'll do 2 on Sunday, 9 and 11. That gives us a chance to turn everything over. Those will be the live things. And then what we'll invite people into are some smaller commitments of ways that they can continue to grow, some ways to reimagine things. So we will do, Alpha does a amazing free marriage course, and you can sign up for it online. It's a video curriculum if you want to use it, but we'll do a 7-week Reimagine Marriage. And we were hoping for 20 people to do it. We had 40 couples sign up the last time we did it. It was overwhelming how many. We'll do one with parenting, one with kind of discovering your design for joining God, and then one that will be on soul care. And so we'll try to have these small little like 2, 3, 4, 5 week kind of things that people can join in afterwards to find some community. For us, it tends to be Easter is when everyone who in our city and our surrounding area, everyone who thinks Beach Point is their church, they all kind of show up. Even Christmas, we kind of doubled what we had at Christmas, because even the people who didn't want to come because they don't want to wear masks, or they didn't want to be out with people, even they showed up for Christmas. So we're expecting them at Easter, and we're working on that. We also will pre-record something that will have a little creative feel. We'll call Kyle Bonenberger and get some creative consulting, but probably something that we can shoot, because we still know a number of our people, probably at least 50% of our people are still going to watch online.
Great. Thank you so much, Bill. So one of the things I just want to follow up on, what are you all planning for children during Easter? So I know, Eric, we know what you're doing, but you may want to add to that a little bit. But Ivan, how about you? You're going to start coming back together. Kids going to be gathering and so forth. What are you thinking for kids?
Yeah, I would love to answer. I think we skipped David, Doug.
Oh, we'll get to him.
Okay, all right, great.
Oh, you mean on the most recent one?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, we
sir.
did.
On
I'm
the
sorry,
last question.
David. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Thank you for catching that. Yeah, go ahead, David.
Yeah, well, we start paving the way for Easter since 2 weeks ago. We started doing something called the Red Letter Challenge, and it's this 40 day, challenge where you dive into everything Jesus, all the story, and so we get people kind of immersed in the history, the teachings, the everything Jesus in that. And the cool thing about that is that it teaches you and it empowers you to really reach out to the community, to reach out, and because it finishes one Sunday before Easter, it's just we've been in it for so long now that people are energized. They want to invite people, reach out to friends, family, neighbors. And so in Easter, what we do is pretty much the same thing, since it's very outreach focused, it's very family oriented. Now, this year especially, it takes on a different kind of reality in which we're going to be focusing on the power of healing and trusting in God, and addressing the soul wounds that we have based on this last year. And I want to encourage everybody watching to really take courage and do what you have to do to open up your church for this year. It's been such a rough year, and especially I think for leadership in church. When the pandemic started, we would see frontline workers or nurses, doctors, and they're heroes, and I would repost, right, the social media and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, that's awesome. And then we would hear like teachers, going online and taking care of kids or whatever, and I would repost that. And people like police officers or people that are serving the community, and I would repost. And when I wanted to serve, as a pastor with the church, I was a bully, I was inconsiderate, I was, not helping at all. I was like, what happened there? I felt so bad. Like, who's addressing the issues of the soul and the spirit and people? Like, it's just so crushing for people. It's not just the body. It's not, the body is not more or as important as the soul. People need to be cared for. And this is what we wanted to do. And, all this backlash would come to the church. Well, now I think people are starting to realize how important churches are to help people go through these situations. I mean, the doctors aren't there in the funerals. They're not there. The once their job is done, right? And what happens with the families that stay? And so I've been very passionate about that because I've been visiting people. During the pandemic, I got to go and I had to sign a waiver that almost said, like, you're signing away your life. But I went to ICU wards to be with people, and COVID everywhere. To this day, I've never gotten COVID. Thank be to Jesus, and we've never had any issues with church with COVID as well. And so the whole thing is, I think that it takes on a bigger role, Easter, this year than just the part of the church calendar. I think there's such a powerful thing that when people come to church, as several pastors mentioned already, they'll just feel this emptiness started being filled because they need it so much. People need a touch from God in their souls. And if Easter is that excuse, right, to go to church and finally get out there, if we do it outside, if we do it with however we need to do it, but let's just make sure that it happens. So I'm excited about it.
Really? I'm having trouble here with my mute button. I'm so sorry about that. Hey, David, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you're planning to do for kids on Easter, and then we'll just go right through and pick up Ivan, Bill, and Eric in that order, okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, so obviously kids are a big part of it, because if you are focusing on doing something family oriented, the kids are that driving force. Just like Eric mentioned with his genius idea, I mean, it's really catering to the kids, but bringing the whole family in, something that creates memories in their hearts. You never know. I've heard several testimonies in youth groups and even with older people, the memories they have when they were kids and in those Easter egg hunts, and the seed was planted there. So it is a very important thing. It's not just creating a social thing, right? It's actually planting those seeds of faith, of memory in children. So what we do is we work with the plaza. Last year it was canceled, but the year before that we were already like working with the plaza where we're in. and we participated in Halloween and in Easter there. And what they do is every store does like an Easter egg hunt, where if you go there, and in Halloween they do the candy. And so the ones that we participated in, one similar to Eric's, we didn't know what we got ourselves into, because it was a big plaza and they had between 3,000 to 4,000 people show up for those events. And so we're just, for our event, we're part of the plaza's event, if that makes sense. It's not just us independently, we're part of what the plaza does. And then because of our relationship with the plaza now, there are certain things that can happen in our church related with kids. We're planning right now, we're in talks, because again, liability and all this, but having those big bouncy houses, you know, and doing all that type of thing for kids and family to experience the church and to be in a safe environment, and at the same time be exposed to this church that is in that community. So that's kind of where we're at with that right now.
Super.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ivan.
So we are doing three things. One is we started last Tuesday, as a matter of fact, we go today, regathering our young people. I am ashamed to say that the pandemic caught us so off guard that we weren't really prepared to minister to the whole congregation, unfortunately. But we have really made an effort the last beginning this year to regather. And we started a social media blast and activity to re-engage our young people. Two, we're having a Saturday gathering. The day before Easter, there was a gathering that morning with young people. And then something just fell in my spirit. God spoke, and we're going to do a glow-in-the-dark Easter egg hunt. I'll tell you, woo, I mean, just amazing. God is still speaking. Don't get it twisted. So those are the three things that we are doing. And let me just say one more thing. Bill, you reminded me how we were shell shocked. To do an indoor service at Easter for us, at least in our context, is huge, right? And there's so much planning in making sure that people feel safe. And we know that, not to, try to politicize this at all, but there are certain demographics that have been hit harder by the COVID, and we're one of those demographics. So we have to be extra careful. So we're probably not as robust as we have been in the past with our youth. Easter usually centers around what's happening with our youth. But this year, I think we have been moving with the appropriate hope and caution.
Yeah, gosh, thank you. Bill?
There you go. For us at Beach Point, probably the thing that we focus on the most, we'll have things for our kids. We'll probably do most of our kids' things we expect to be in smaller classroom settings. So we were going to do a helicopter drop of Easter eggs, but we might just have junior high kids throw eggs at them from the roof. I was going to do a glow-in-the-dark Easter egg hunt, but apparently a pastor in Arizona and one in Santa Ana bought them all, so I wasn't able to get those. But one of the things that I think our team does really well in our family ministries is they create what's called Faith at Home. And so for every series, there is, they equip and empower. That's kind of the idea, is how do we equip and empower parents to continue this kind of thing that we're working on at home. So they'll create a resource to the parents, and we'll spend some money on putting together something that the parents can kind of take with them, or if they're not going to come, we'll arrange for drop-offs. But for example, they did last year was like the resurrection eggs, so they could help tell the story with their kids and kind of build it together, kinesthetic kind of learning. So we've got a lot of Biola Christian educators on our staff, so we kind of think that way. But I love what they do, and I love that they are putting things in the hands of parents and trying to figure out ways to continue the teaching and the development after the service.
Yeah. So really kind of focusing in on what the families are able to do with their kids.
Yeah, I think because we've done, I mean, certainly in the past, we've been able to do like the big event stuff, and we would do this as well. We know we can't pull off the big event stuff this year, but we can still do puts together something quality that families can continue to do at home. It's spring break week for us here, and so kids will be at home. So any way that they can kind of be hands-on, continuing to learn and to engage, that's what we want them to do.
Awesome, awesome. So Eric, everyone's stealing your idea. Someone actually thought your voice was the voice of God, but if you could go ahead, anything else that you'd want to add in terms of what you're planning to do with the kids?
Well, yeah, I didn't think anyone, yeah, I do. I want to help anyone who's thinking about, I think it's the way to do it, honestly, because there's so many morning things. It's in the late afternoon. But let me just help a couple people out. If you're thinking about doing it, don't go on Oriental Trading or Amazon and buy glow in the dark eggs. They are horrible. It has to be pitch black to do it. Buy regular eggs, then buy some UV tape, and you just tape it on two sides of it real quick. When you do the egg stuffing, we do a big egg stuffing movie party where we got all people come, they stuff all the eggs, we have a movie around it, it's fun, stuff 10,000 eggs full of candy, we tape them there. And then what we did, because we tried the glow in the dark Oriental Trading and they were horrible. And so we changed some bulbs out to UV bulbs, and we took those big shop lights and we're putting UV bulbs in those, and they basically just create this big UV area. And then we gave about 100 flashlights out to volunteers and parents to walk around, and they actually shine the big egg field with UV flashlights, because then it doesn't have to be nearly as dark and people aren't standing around waiting forever. So we do it right about sunset. So I learned that. So that's way easier to do it that way. And then this year we're adapting. We only did this once. It was our first year as a church, Easter. This year we're making it much more for the whole family. So we're doing food trucks. We're doing a rock wall for like teenagers. We're doing a mechanical bull for adults. We're doing bounce houses and stuff for smaller kids. And then we're splitting up the Easter egg hunt, because last time it was one big field fenced in, and didn't anticipate what the 1.5-year-old and the 9-year-old would do when they collided. So we're splitting those up into different areas. So we learned a bunch through that, but yeah, we're making the whole thing about families and kids that day.
Okay. So you learned some stuff last year, you're expanding on it this year, you're going all out with it. It's very exciting. Yeah. Hey, we want to do something that we haven't done for a while on our webinars. We're going to take some polls, and I'm going to ask Elena to post the first question that we want to give you a chance to weigh in on. And you've heard what our pastors are doing, but really would be curious to see what you, as the rest of participants, are doing. So on the whole, will your Easter service target believers or unbelievers? Who are you trying to reach during your Easter service? And obviously, you're probably going to say both, but you have to choose one or the other. And so while you're making that choice, Eric, I want to tell you that while you use UV lights to find eggs, I use a UV light to find scorpions in my backyard. So that's what I have to do. And we've got them crawling around, but it's kind of fun to hunt them down and crush them in the name of Jesus. So I just want you to know that. Elena, can we bring that up yet, or do we need to go on to the next poll? How about if we go on to the next poll? I think we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, so here's a question for you. Will you be more excited to have a large gathering in person or online? Where are you at? You want to see people online, really a lot of number online, or a lot of people in person? Okay, and then let's go to the third one. And that is, will you intentionally be introducing something at your Easter services that invites people to come back or engage online? So depending on what you're doing and what you're comfortable doing, are you introducing things? Bill Staffieri, for example, mentioned the reimagine. And so reimagine marriage is something that they're inviting people to engage in. Are you doing something that would intentionally invite people to come back or to engage in a deeper way? Okay, so Elena, can we bring up the poll results? Let's take a look at those. What was the answer to the first one? Will your service be targeting believers or unbelievers? Okay, so majority of people are going to be targeting, or the majority of services are looking at unbelievers at this point. So it's about 2/3 to 1/3. How about the next result? Okay, so I think we're all hankering to see people come back, and that's interesting. And then finally, will we intentionally be introducing something at our Easter services to invite people back? Awesome. Yes. So a lot of thought going into what you're trying to do on Easter and what it is that you're going to do to help them come back. So let's go to that question right now. And just kind of a follow-up, how are you going to be publicizing your Easter services? And Bill, you've already mentioned some things that you're doing to invite people back. If you want to add to that, feel free to do that. But how are you publicizing your services, and how are you going to try to get people back after that?
Yeah, the most effective thing for us has been obviously social media, because it becomes a little bit more targeted. We create things not only for our church, but things that they can share themselves. So I mean, for us, our outreach strategy is the oikos 8 to 15 kind of, if you've heard Tom Mercer share, making people aware of the people that are in their lives that God seems to supernaturally, strategically have put in their lives, and having them see themselves take that responsibility. So we want to be able to invite people specifically through their networks. To me, what's been fascinating is watching over the decade plus that I've been here. And especially on Easters, I will have people walk up to me. It's a little creepy, but they'll walk up to me and they'll whisper in my ear. They'll introduce someone to me, and then they'll whisper in my ear, "This is someone from my 8 to 15." Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's always exciting to see them own. These are people in their life and their network, and that's who's coming.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll be pushing 8 to 15 hard during this Easter season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Who's next? David.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, we are kind of paving the way with having people be really engaged with just the Great Commandment, and being there with people and helping out and their neighbors and all this. So in part of this study that we're doing with the Red Letter Challenge is very similar to the Oikos model, where you identify people that are around you, and then you kind of commit to be praying over them and in one way, shape, or another, introduce them to your church and bring them, expose them, on a Sunday or doing all that. And so, yeah, that's how we've been doing. We've really toned back all just like the catch-all type of a marketing, I guess you would say, with social media, especially with with just the whole temperature in society right now on what's going on and who we really open up the church to and do all that, in the sense of you don't know who's coming in, and somebody might be there just to make sure that you guys go under. I already had a friend that happened to them. And so what we're doing is we're using the people from church to really reach out, and because they're known, it's a friend, it's a family member, then the anxiety level of people coming to church can come way down, because we have this, I guess we're in a season where it feels like Big Brother is watching over every single thing we do and every single thing we say. And so people are dealing with that anxiety. And so what we're doing is very similar to the Oikos model. Hey, this is my, friend. This is my brother, right? And when they come, then we can manage all that. So that's kind of what the strategy, I guess, behind it.
And are you doing anything intentional, or what are you doing intentionally to just say, hey, here's what you're going to come back to?
Yes. So we started with that since the beginning of the year, pretty much in just setting up what to expect of the entire year. 2019, I have a calendar that we did in August of 2018. And I've crumbled that and ripped it several times and then re-glued it and did all that. So I don't have something specific just because of my own sanity. We're kind of taking it month to month. So I couldn't even tell you what's happening in the month of April, completely or all that. But we do understand that we have to present something when people are there that is on the screen, that is a flyer handout or something that people can take and be like, okay, for the next 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, this is what's coming up. So, but nothing on paper yet.
So you're waiting for 3 days before the event so you can be sure
Exactly
that it's
right.
probably gonna
Exactly
happen.
right. Just like
Awesome.
that. 3
Awesome.
hours before the event.
There you go. Yeah. How about for you, Eric? How are you publicizing it, and what are people going to come back to?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do all of it. Social media, we do in-person handouts. Those are interestingly still a pretty effective way to get people to church, is a personal handout. And so yeah, we'll do those. We'll do big banners on our property. We have a ton of cars that drive right by our church, so we do like massive 20-30 foot banners that you have to look at for big things. And so we'll use that. And so remind me, I spaced on
Well,
the
and then
question.
follow up, but just how you're
Follow up, yep.
publicizing it, and then how you're trying to bring people back. So kind of before and after. Yeah.
Yep. So the callback is, we're going to do two things. So we're going to jump into Acts. We're going to do a 28-week series on the book of Acts coming out of Easter, take us to Halloween. So we try to mix that expository, topical type thing. And so really excited, because I think that is a really good on-ramp from Easter.
So let me stop you right there.
Yep.
Your target, you mentioned your target was the lost, the person who's lost, far from God.
Yep.
Why are you doing Acts for that person as a comeback?
Well, because it's, I mean, and as you just see in Acts 1 and 2, you see this explosion of people far from God coming into faith, and you see this eruption of a move of God. And so it starts there in Acts, but also we're a young church, and so there's a lot of parallels to resistance and opposition in society versus the church. And so I think there's a lot of parallels, and honestly, I've just wanted to do it for 2 years and haven't done it, and it felt like a good time. So on the comeback as well, so when we started the church, we did anything and everything. Every idea was a good idea, and we were killing ourselves. We were doing a lot and productive, but we're wearing ourselves thin. And so about a year ago, we made the transition in our group model, because the average church group, like people involved in a group, small group, life group, whatever you call it, is, I mean, 20% is actually pretty good. 30% you're healthy. Anything above that's crazy. But the church I was at before this was about 8% of the church was in a group. And so we changed the model completely. We only do message-based groups now. So people meet off the message on Sunday. And in this last go around, this is all in person. We have 125 people in groups right now. And so we'll take a break for a couple of weeks before Easter. We'll get back into that. But that is where we see people commit to our church. They start serving, they start giving, they start really joining into community in a group. So we're not trying to do 10 things and everything. We want to do one thing and do it great. And so that's kind of our bread and butter right now. We're gonna keep it simple. Groups are our best thing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So I'm just going to go back to the panelists real quickly. And Bill, I'll start with you, then David, Eric, Ivan. I'm sorry, I'm jumping over things too quickly. I need to touch your base with you. So now I'm trying to skip over you. How are you publicizing your services, and how are you going to bring people back?
So I think pretty much some of the same things that David, Bill, and Eric have talked about. We have, as you know, we're on a major boulevard, and so we have signs that'll be out saying we're regathering for Easter, for Resurrection Day. We also, social media, we're going to hit it pretty hard, but we are hitting that apartment complex and the townhomes that were built, we're going to hit those with some, hand-to-hand combat, reaching out, passing out flyers and meeting people. And again, it's tricky because people, are much more standoffish because of COVID, but that's what we're going to do. And what we're going to do to get people to come back, I think there's two major things. One, we're launching a new series, as Bill and Eric have talked about. But two, we have a new partnership, and we're kicking off life groups with another church where we're having conversations about racial reconciliation. And we're actually beginning to try to model what that looks like. We just believe that the issues of this society, the issues of this country, the issues of this world, God has ordained his church to take them on and model to the world how we can live in civility and live in love. And at the end of the day, we do know that there is a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is love, right? So we want to try to just really demonstrate what love looks like, even though we may have differences of opinions, differences of backgrounds, differences of experience. So that's really, I think, the big kickoff for Easter is, hey, this is our next step. And so we're doing something with Calvary Church, Bill, and we're doing small life groups that are intermingled between the two churches. And that will start in May, but we'll kick it off for Easter to get people signed up. So that's the big thing.
Ivan, I'm assuming that came out of a relationship that you've been building with a pastor at Calvary Church.
Yes, the social and civil unrest from earlier this summer forged several relationships. And I know David Harris is on this call. He has helped me as well to begin to have conversations to help us to take the lead at bringing people together. I think it's very easy to stay apart. It's very easy to stand in our corners and hurl insults. But I would like for us to leave the corner, come to the center of the field, and let's play on the same team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me just announce the webinar that we're going to be doing next Tuesday. We're calling it After Easter, What's Going to Happen and How Should We Plan? So we're trying to think through, what do you feel like you can do right now? What are you going to have to hold back on? It sounds like, Eric, you're full board, just being able to launch ahead with physical gatherings. Obviously, not every church is right there. So we're going to just talk about where some of the churches are at. And we're going to have Glenn Gunderson, David Harris, Randall Tonini, and Weston Brown on the call. And you think some of you have challenges. Randall Tonini, who's the pastor of Grace City Church in San Diego, they don't have a place to meet. So they've been meeting since the first of the year. They've been meeting in a park every Sunday. So Eric, you talk about the book of Acts. They're out there in a park every Sunday, and they've got a pretty good sized church. It's about 5 years old. I think there's about 200 people in that church, but they're carrying on a very lively ministry with some great ideas. So there's lots of challenges, a great opportunity to learn. I want to end with this question. And then Ivan, I'm going to ask you to close for us in prayer, okay, that God would bring this about. But here's the question, and just feel free to jump in and answer it any way you want to. What are you really praying that God would do this Easter?
I know for us, we have, we took, and probably something I think David was hinting at, we took a detour leading up to Easter that we did not expect. We usually start the new year off with some kind of change the world, kind of use the new year momentum, let's go like gangbusters. And we've been focusing in on Psalm 23. We're doing a slow read through Psalm 23 and focusing on restoring our souls. And my sense was we're going to get to Easter and we're going to start seeing Orange County open up and people come back. And they're only going to see the shell of who we are because we're just so wounded and tired. And, some of the things Ivan's mentioned. I've been called more names. I've been told I'm a Marxist, I'm a communist, I'm liberal, you name it. I've been called that. And it was pretty exhausting, I think, to have to deal with a lot of things this year. And so I try not to totally project myself onto the whole congregation, but we focused on restoring our souls. So we're even going to, next month, we're inviting people to like intentional solo days, just some extended time, guided time with God. And our hope is, what we're hoping is that our people are, what I want to see change in some ways. And I'm a kind of driven person. So not just living the Christian life, but learning how to walk with Jesus. And I think there's a difference between this kind of striving to live this kind of system versus a life with God. I don't know if you've ever read, any of you guys that want a book to read, the book With by Skye Jitani is just it's a must read. It'll help you so much in your leadership, because I think in some ways when we teach people to not live for God, but to live with God, the for part all makes sense in that context. And so that what I'm praying is, that's what I'm praying with. I'm praying that the people, our people are starting to come back. And I think, as a lot of people said, they miss this. We see people their first Sunday back, they're in tears. But this life with God that they're meant to live in community, this embodied community. I'm really hoping though that when the community starts to kind of start finding themselves into a life with us as well, they don't find us as this kind of shell of who we used to be, because we've been so wounded and tired from the past year. So we're trying to be very intentional leading up. And I would just say, these last workshops that you guys have done on revival and prayer, I mean, I've just taken that so much to heart. And we just know, like, if our team is very strategic, but if we're not prayerful, it just doesn't, it's just not going to matter. It won't do it. So I would commend, if you haven't watched the previous episodes, watch those, because they've been so good to move us to pray.
Thanks so much, Bill. And if you could put the name of that book, because
Yeah.
I know the author is hard to spell.
Skye Jitani.
If you could do that, that'd be great. And just put it in the chat section. But thank you. Yeah, someone else. What are you really asking God to do this Easter?
For us, we've been focusing on, right now, just like Bill said, we've been 21 days of prayer in January. We usually start that way, and then just continuing the Christian basics, that keep us so grounded and strengthen our souls. But for us, we feel that it's a time for bold faith. We live in such a time where our faith, in my personal opinion and my personal experience, is just so under the microscope now, with everything going on, and especially the role of the church in everything that's going on, not only in our state, in our nation, but in the world, that for us, it is time to have a very bold faith, to stand on what we believe in, and to show the world what the mission of the church really is. And so in order for us to make that happen, we do have to step into this reality of a bold faith, of taking on that challenge of being light in darkness, without sounding a cliche, right? But just being very boldly about it, very matter of fact, very, we're here to stay type of a thing, and we're here to help. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Eric, what are you asking God to do?
Yeah, my prayer for Easter and just where we're at as a church is Luke 4, where Jesus recites the prophet Isaiah. He has sent me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. And so God send us people that are imprisoned, people that are bound, people that are oppressed, people that are dead to sin, and let's watch people come alive in Christ. And that's my prayer.
Super. That's wonderful. Thank you all, pastors, for being on this. If you are participating, do not leave yet, because we're not done. This is one of the most important parts of our time together. I'm going to ask Pastor Ivan Pitts, to just pray that God would be at work in not only the churches represented here, but God would be at work in your church, and that you would have an Easter that is evidence of things only God can do. So Ivan, would you lead us?
Yeah, I've been asking, I've been praying this prayer. I always say, God, you've heard our hearts. Now let us hear yours.
Mhm.
Let us go to God in prayer. God, you have heard our hearts. We claim to be your children, and we are. We are your servants, and we are. We ask that you will give us rest for our souls, because we've been battered by this season. We've been battered by criticism. We've been vexed by the circumstances. And yet, God, we still stand here bold enough to serve you. God, we ask that you will give us boldness of faith, that we can do amazing things in this coming Easter resurrection season. God, we thank you for our time of sharing and of gathering and talking of ideas. And God, we want to live out the spirit of Isaiah as quoted by Jesus in Luke chapter 4. The Spirit of the Lord is upon us, oh God. May we live spirit-filled lives that is indicative of one who have been in the presence of you, oh God. May you rest, may you rule, may you abide in us and through us, not just being people who are doing, but people who are being in your presence, being in your will, and being aligned with your word. God, I pray for Transformation Ministries, and I pray that you would continue to allow them to be a beacon of hope and encouragement and wisdom for all the churches and the pastors. I pray, oh God, that you will continue to produce healthy churches and strong pastors. And I pray, oh God, that this resurrection season, we will surely see a resurrection in so many different ways in our lives, in our congregations, and in our communities. And finally, oh God, you have heard our hearts. May we hear yours. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Thank you all for participating. We'll see you next Tuesday.
What a great honor. Thank you.
See you.